Okay, morning. My name's Lynda Keane, and today we are having a little chat with Marietta. Marietta is from Australia, and she has been a fitness instructor for how many years, Marietta?
30.
30 years. Wow.
30 years.
I think a lot of us, a lot that I've been interviewing, have actually been in the industry for about that amount of time. So
Yeah.
we've all come through. We've all seen a lot of changes, a lot of changes. So, what initially brought you into the industry, Marietta?
So I started quite young, and so it started when I was 15, and basically my dad, a new gym had opened, or a gym had opened in our small country town. And summer descended on us, and back then we used to have like a 6-week summer break. And Dad said, "Well, do you want to go to the gym? I'll get you a gym membership." And I really struggled with my weight. I wasn't naturally athletic. I lived in a small country town where girls played netball and boys played football and cricket. And because I was rather overweight and didn't have very good coordination skills, I was never, never asked if I'd be part of a team. And so, trying so hard to lose weight and going out for runs, and obviously didn't know what I was doing. Dad bought me a gym membership, and that literally was what changed my life. Because at the gym, I felt like I was part of a community, and people were welcoming and people were nice, and people didn't see me as being incapable like what I was having to deal with in the school environment. And I thought, well, this is where I want to be. 3 years later, I'm finishing my final year of secondary school, and an aerobics course had become available. And the gym said to me, well, I'd moved from the back row to the front row, and now I was sporting a leotard, and I'd lost a lot of weight. They said, would you like to become a group fitness instructor? Well, back then it was aerobics. And I said, yes, but I don't have the money and I don't have the means to travel to the next town to actually get the qualifications. So they said, well, what if we pay for it? We have another girl that's going to go. You can go with her. So in my very final year, where I was actually doing my exams, I was becoming an aerobics instructor. And then when I moved to Melbourne, which is 200 kilometres south of where I grew up, I had no form of income. And I just had a small allowance from the government, which was called Austudy. So I thought, well, I've got a skill now, and I might as well start teaching aerobics to basically be able to pay my bills and eat. 6 months later, I gave up uni and decided to become an aerobics instructor full-time as a career. And that was when I was 18.
Excellent.
Yeah.
When did you discover the pool?
So it was a year later when I was teaching at a YMCA, and I had a coordinator who I really liked. And she comes up to me at the end of one of my classes and in a bit of a fluster and said, could you please help us out? Can you take the aqua class? And I've gone, but I don't know how to teach aqua. And she said, look, just go down there. You can just, you're talented. You can make it up as you go. And I thought, well, why not? So at the tender age of 19, I went down to the pool and saw these incredibly ancient people. And I thought, oh my God, they'll break if I do anything normal. And I tried to think of what I'd seen aqua instructors do. And I did this incredibly slow class. And at the end of it, the participant said to me, oh, that was lovely, dear, but it was way too slow. We won't break. So I figured it was another way I could earn money. I'll go and do the aqua course. So I did the aqua training, I think it was that year. Yeah, I did the aqua training that year. So that would have been in 1991. And I became an aqua instructor there. Yep. And I remember I almost failed my exam because I was way too energetic and way too enthusiastic, and I need to tone it right down, I was told. Anyway, needless to say, I've completely ignored all that advice my entire career.
I was going to say, you still are very energetic and you are very hyped up. So
and aqua's changed, exercising in the water, the perception around exercising in the water has changed.
It has. But I remember the days so well when you'd get the aerobic instructors being told to go and teach aqua. Oh, you can do that. but they would never ever think about saying to the aqua instructors, oh, go and teach aerobics. It's funny how
No.
thought it would go one way but never go the other. So yes, I remember those days well, getting very frustrated, very frustrated. So basically you've really never done anything else, so you've got no sort of like skeletons in your closet of being, you know, a sort of a brain surgeon or something in the background and doing this as the extra. This is your brain surgery. Absolutely committed to the course. Yeah.
And it's the only career I've ever had. So, you know, when people make comments about how the fitness industry compares to another industry, I wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what it's like to live. I've always lived by hustling, by selling exercise, and by knowing that my body was so important, because an injury would greatly affect my income. So it was all about protecting, preserving, maximizing what my body could do. So my whole life has been based around how I could actually be able to show up and continue delivering.
That's very interesting, actually, because I don't know that even a lot of instructors, despite it being their career, have that same sort of philosophy of the importance of their own body. You get to hear, and this is something that hasn't changed over the time that we've been in the industry, but you get young people that come in and teach sort of 20, 30 plus classes a week, and then find that their bodies are broken. They don't take their body seriously enough. So it's sort of interesting that you bring that in as well.
I have a skeleton in my closet. All right. So the skeleton is, I actually did that. So one of the things I'm famous for anyone that's been around long enough, was I used to teach 40 classes a week. I did that for almost 10 years. And that's a ridiculous amount of delivery. That's beyond normal. And I definitely went up the training curve, and I was definitely on the slide down. I know what it's like to be overtrained. I suffered burnout twice. I understand the depression that goes through it. I've had, my body was so broken several times, with really chronic inflammation issues, you know, frozen shoulder, sciatica that was due to extremely tight piriformis. Lots of issues with my knee. Like, I basically did partial tears to every ligament in my left knee, and that was through overuse. Everything was through overuse and inflammation. So look, to be absolutely honest with you, I didn't know that right at the beginning of my career. I sort of realized that actually the turning point was in 2004, and I was presenting at a Chinese convention, and I desperately wanted to do more international stuff. But I remember being heavily medicated on like painkillers, because I was in so much pain with my knee and my lower back. And I looked at these other presenters that were there, who traveled the globe and did amazing things, but looked healthy. Like, they looked so healthy, and I couldn't even move in a healthy way. Like, I was masking pain all the time. And I remember coming home from that event, it was in Shanghai, thinking, I have to make a change. I don't want to keep going down this path that I'm going, because I want to keep doing this for a career, and I want to be like these people. So I started taking sleep more seriously, started doing massage more seriously, and started implementing things into my, I suppose, weekly routine. I now have I did have before COVID-19 a more reasonable teaching numbers of 16 classes a week, which is way easier than 40. And that's comfortable for me.
Yeah.
That's a comfortable number.
I think at my maximum, I was teaching 17 a week, as well as teaching sort of swimming and things like that. So I think 17 was my cutoff point as well, back in the day. So it's very interesting. So what would be your advice to anybody that is sort of like newly starting out on this sort of career?
If it was from like a teaching perspective, and I get it, like some people just want to teach, but take the advice that you give to other people. And there is no way that you would tell someone who was new to regular exercise, Oh yeah, you should be teaching 4 classes a week and 3 of them should be body pump. You know, make sure that you don't have any recovery between those. So if you can fit 2 into a day, fantastic. Like, you would never give that advice to any other human being because it just wouldn't be sound advice. It wouldn't be appropriate advice. So the advice that you would normally give other people, you need to give yourself. And for it to become a career, your body's got to develop a resilience. And you've got to, and this is the advice I'd give. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit out of the box, but then so is everything I do. Is start with, say, for example, you know, 3 classes a week is not an unreasonable amount, but you want to make sure you're having some rest in between. You want to do that for about a month. And then you can assess what your energy levels are like. Could you do a little bit more? Could you add another class on your schedule? Then you might implement maybe 1 class a week. And then you want to see how you're feeling after that. Because this is the one thing that I discovered was I needed more naps. So the days that I had more classes on, I needed an afternoon nap where I'd come home and switch off my phone. I'd have some sleep and then I'd feel okay. So it's all about assessing what your energy levels are like. You know, for some of us, we prefer to exercise in the morning and not teach at night. Other people prefer to exercise at night and not teach early in the morning. And it's when you're pushing your body to do something it doesn't want to do, and you can't really tell until you've done it for a long enough period of time for you to be able to go, you know what, this doesn't feel right, then it's time to change it or rearrange your schedule. Because, you know, for me, I've taken classes permanently since 1992. You know, there's gyms I've been working at for that length of time. And I'm one of those sorts of people that shows up every week. And I'm very consistent and very reliable and very loyal. And that's just how I do things and that's how I roll. So I always go, okay, if I take this class on, let me see how I feel about it. I'm going to do it for about a month and then I can assess at the end of the month. Was it a good decision? Yes, great. I keep going. Was it a bad decision? Okay, time to drop it.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And I've definitely found as I've got older that, you know, you do have to look after your body because those things they come back and they haunt you. So, so it is that staying fit, but really, you know, as you say, tuning in and saying, is this good for me? Is this right? I mean, I hate to say, but I've still seen recently people teaching barefoot on poolside. And it's just, you know, it's a concrete floor. What are they doing? All those shock waves are going to go up their spine. So,
you know, if they're young, they're going to do it anyway. So you can't tell a young person what it feels like to be older. You know, I used to get told all the time, you won't do this in 20 years' time. I'm thinking, sure, I won't do it in 20 years' time, but I can do it now. So mind your own business. But yeah, I think that, you know, when you're young, you can get away with doing a lot of things. And you know what? That's the only time you can. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. So what do you think has changed on your journey on the aquatic side of things? How your thought processes? I mean, it must be different to when you first started, you know, sort of with either the classes, the type of classes that you teach, or how you feel about sort of constructing them, or even the type of people that come to the pool. What do you think's changed in your journey?
If I look at it from a holistic point of view, I think that water is now not perceived for a specific population group. I think that it's really cool to see the diversification that's happened with Aqua. You know, like, you know, when I first started, it was gentle exercise for older adults. And that certainly is a perception that has been pretty pervasive. Having said that though, you know, now we've got therapeutic forms. So I feel like it went from one area and it just spread out and diversified. So there's a lot more options and opportunities for people to explore what they feel comfortable about doing in the water. And I think that's exciting. For me personally, when I first started teaching Aqua, I literally made it up as I went along. So I put the music on, I'd make it up as I went along, looked at the clock several times and made sure that I filled the time slot that I was supposed to be doing. If we fast forward to where I am now, I spend a lot of time putting my classes together. It's interesting. The more experience I've had, the more time and effort I put into actually preparing a class. And A full class is now all pre-choreographed. I choose my music, I map my music, I work out my exercises in the water, not on land. I then put the thing together, I teach it to my class, I then film myself doing it in the water, both below the water and above the water. I check that what I'm doing or what I want to achieve from what I'm doing in the pool is matching what my participants are doing. It's quite a process. And then I finally get to where I'm like, yep, this class is now set. It's the way I want to teach it. I'm really happy with it. And for me, I also turn that then into a presentation. So there's an end goal. And so it can take up to a year to put a brand new class together. And some classes I put together a lot faster. So it just depends on my ability to get to the pool as frequently. But I think, people say to me, it must be easier. And in some ways it is, because I have a process. In other ways it's harder because I'm always trying to do something better than what I've done before. So try to find a way to express myself through movement and exercise with also the extra knowledge that I'm learning along the way. So I want to implement that as well into what I'm doing. So I'm not creating a class I would have created 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It needs to be a class that's being created with what I know now. And implementing that information.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love that you said that you do as well, which is something that I don't think is done enough, especially over here in the UK, it may be different over there for you guys, but the fact that you also try it out in the water yourself. So many people just sort of come, and especially if they teach a lot of classes, they just go from one class to the next, to the next, to the next, and actually don't get to feel what they are actually doing, to see whether it works. And I think that's such a crucial part of doing an aqua class. You've got to feel it. If you don't feel it, you don't know whether it's sort of like maps together well, whether it's balanced and the exercises with the muscle groups and things. So being in the water is crucial.
Yeah. No, it's a problem here in Australia too. I think it's a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
And this perception of, I've already qualified, I already know what it feels like. I'm like, you have no idea, because I actually usually have to get back in the pool and do my own class if I haven't taught it in a while, because I've got to refresh myself about how the body's moving in the water, because I'm teaching on land. Like it's just a different environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah. And what would you say is your favorite thing to teach in the pool? What do you enjoy the most?
I love getting a great piece of music or sequence of music that I really like, and then finding a way to choreograph to express it, whether it's classical music in deep water, or I do use a lot of 80s music. It's just my genre. And coming up with some really cool choreography that just, like when I came up with it was the Tina Turner song, Proud Mary. And I choreographed this like whole routine that went with it, that was a take off her video of her like dance routine. Oh my God, it was so, like, there was just this joy that I love delivering it, because to me, I'm Tina Turner, and I am now delivering this routine that's in the water. That I know it's in the water. And the participants go off. Like it's this joyful expression of movement, but we're also in the water and we're enjoying the properties of water. And it's just, the harmony. That's what I love doing the most.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Yes. Yes. I know. Because while we're talking, I'm thinking about the last IFC that I was with you and doing all the noodle work and sitting on it and, turning it around. It was great fun. Great fun. Okay, so that beautifully leads me into my next thought, and that's, what is your favorite piece of equipment to use in the pool, and why?
So hard, because I use stock standard stuff, right? Dumbbells, noodles. I played around with the kickboards, and of course I have the Aqua Gym Stick. And I know I'm supposed to say the Aqua Gym Stick, because I think it's a really cool tool. But most of the pools I work at don't have it. I think,
That's a big issue, isn't it? That there's some amazing kit out there, but
yeah,
you know, unless you've got your own pool, we just don't have that access to it.
I think the piece of equipment that I find most versatile would have to be the dumbbell. Whether you're just using one dumbbell or you're using two dumbbells. If I was to think about a piece of equipment that I've been able to, like, you know, I can really squeeze out some creative new exercises and ways to use it, it'd have to be the dumbbell. I know that's really average and really boring, but that's one of the things I like to do. I like to take something that seems really typical, boring, pedestrian, and finding cool ways to use it. So yeah, it would be the dumbbell.
That's great, because you know, having that creativity, it's taking the normal and making it, you know, interesting and diverse and things. So that's cool. I'll go along with that. I think you know, because the pool I work at, we've only got the dumbbells and the noodles as well, and very chewed up those noodles do become. At least the children don't eat the dumbbells quite as much.
No, they're a little harder to chomp into, that's for sure.
Yeah. So we have that. What about courses? I know you deliver and you write courses as well. So tell me a little bit about that.
So, obviously I've got both water and land. If I think more specifically about Aqua, um, all my delivery has actually been face to face. You know, delivering usually a whole day. There would be 4 presentations in one day. Maybe something with a dumbbell, something with a noodle, maybe something deep, and then there'd always be a lecture. And in more recent years, the lectures have actually really evolved. So one of the things I really like about when I deliver my workshops now, it's no longer just about the choreography. The choreography is there for me to express a point of view. For example, one of the lectures that I started delivering last year was age-related slowing. So I talked all about the science behind that. I talked about what happens as adults, you know, get into their 60s, and we're talking about dynapenia. And so I talked all about the science behind it. And then when we went to the pool and I taught an aqua class that basically demonstrated what I wanted, what I spoke about in the lecture. So that's how I've evolved as a presenter. So I don't like giving workshops anymore that just talks about cool new moves in the pool, because I feel like I've outgrown that stage of teaching and presenting. And I'm sort of enjoying learning new stuff. Like, you know, when you came to my workshop last year about fascia, you know, like just sort of moving into that sort of, talking a little bit more about the science behind it, and then how do we implement that into the water. Because I get a lot of questions in my land classes, because even in my land workshops, I have a lot of water instructors who come to my land presentations, and they often ask, how do I put this in the water? Well, that's a whole new conversation.
Absolutely.
And because I started to get more and more of that, I thought, well, I've now got to take my aqua workshops and presentations to a whole nother level and go, all right, this is what we do on land, so how do we do this in the water? And I have to say, you inspired me, because when I saw that you were presenting the fascia stuff, I was like thinking, okay, I felt like it was time for me to also step up. So you're the inspiration for me to sort of like push myself into that sort of level of teaching. So to like really extend myself, stretch myself out. So I was really nervous when you came to my session last year. I was like, oh my God, did I say the right thing?
I've got some really exciting new stuff that's coming out actually, which I bought an ultrasound machine. So I'm looking at ultrasounding the fascia in the pool, because I can take it into the pool. So I've done initial research, but it just got stopped because of COVID. So I'm chomping at the bit to get back in the pool and to get back sort of having a look. But I've got some really exciting stuff that's going to be coming out very, very soon. So watch this space.
Oh, I want to watch this space, because I know it's going to be different from land, right? It's going to be different.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And I'm looking, the first things I'm looking at is just purely how the water reacts with fascia. So yeah, that's it's also changed the whole angle and whole look of how I'm going to be doing the PhD as well. So I'm sort of like, I've been 2 years of work to start again down this new avenue that I've found to be really, really exciting.
Wow. Do you know, Lynda, like a lot of people that have done something similar to you and end up going down a different direction, like Brene Brown, for example, they've always ended up with something truly amazing. So annoying as it is, I think that what you're doing is going to be groundbreaking.
Excellent. Excellent. That's the hope. So it's just a question of getting it out there and yeah, getting it to the people. So that's the main thing, because you can't take it with you. So you've got to do whatever you need to do, the research, the sort of teaching, the passing the information on, because you know, there's no good in that box with you. It needs to carry on. So
True.
Definitely. So we sort of like talked about how you used to teach 40 hours a week, all your classes, and the effect that had on your body, which is pretty catastrophic, really. I mean, you're lucky that you were astute enough to see what was going on and to actually bring in the changes. So, but how many hours a day are you spending in the pool now? Well,
Right now?
not at this moment.
None.
No, yes. Yeah, we're all sort of shriveling. I mean, I sent one of my first emails I sent to all my clients said, I feel like a goldfish on the carpet because I haven't been in the water for so long. But, yeah.
Probably on average is probably 2 hours a week. You know, 1 hour working on my choreography and stuff. And then of course I've got my aqua tips that I put online and filming for presentations and things like that. So it'd be 1 hour playing around in the pool, coming up with something, and then another hour that's dedicated to filming. So yeah, it'd be around, it would average out about 2 hours. So and sometimes of the year I'm in the pool a lot more than other times of the year. So it would just depend on, you know, whether it's winter and it's presentation time and I don't get in the pool much, or it's summertime and I'm actually there every day.
Yeah. So you said that you do these aqua tips online. How can people get to see your aqua tips and the things that you do?
So there's a couple of ways that you can do it. 3 ways actually you can do it. So I post my aqua tips on my Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
You can
your
also
Facebook page is just your name, Marietta Mehanni.
That's right. So you want to look for the one with me in the pink jumper, not the one jumping in the air, because that's my personal profile.
Yeah.
So you want to look at my page. There's also YouTube, so they get reposted also on YouTube. So if you're not into Facebook, then you can look at it on YouTube, or you can go to my website, mariettamehanni.com, and just click on the link, and that will basically takes you to YouTube. So there's a whole bunch of aqua tips there.
Cool.
Lots of aqua tips there.
So is there any other way that people can sort of get to see, other than traveling to Australia? Of course, they can always come and see you in Australia, but any other ways, anything else that you do that we can sort of direct people to?
Well, I'm going to be working on developing some online education around stuff in the pool, but that's probably a little bit further down the track. I sort of need to get my head around how to communicate effectively online, and that will actually start in June. I'm looking at doing my first virtual workshop, because obviously the pools are not going to be open, and I'll have a virtual workshop in late June that will be an aqua workshop. So it will be a Zoom event. And so I've been, you know, like this situation where we're on Zoom right now. So I'm looking forward to delivering that. And that means anywhere around the globe could actually hop on and check that out. And what I also hope to do with that is actually record the whole thing and then be able to upload it onto my membership site so people can access it after the event. And I think that will basically tell me whether there's something I can continue doing in the future. So it won't mean, like, I often get requests, oh, I wish you'd come to the United States, or I wish you'd come to Hong Kong. Well, you know, that's always been cost prohibitive and just impossible to organize.
Yeah.
Whereas now, perhaps with virtual, people will be a little bit more open to doing that. Yeah, so that will be...
This time has changed people, that they are much more open-minded to doing the online learning.
Yeah, and I've actually really enjoyed it. Like, I've actually really enjoyed watching other online stuff. So I was watching a couple of videos just before while I was cleaning my bathroom, and I thought the information was really interesting, and I would never normally have access to these people unless I paid a lot of money and flew myself somewhere and sat in a lecture. Whereas sometimes I absorb information better if I'm actually moving at the same time. Funny that, cognitive, that you tend to understand information better if you're moving. And that's the way I tend to learn. So as long as I'm doing something that doesn't require any sort of thinking, like cleaning, I'm actually listening and watching the information and absorbing it better. And that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've also noticed, like in this lockdown time, there's a couple of sort of events that have been advertised that I've wanted to go on. One of them is a dissection, sort of whole body dissection course, you know, back to my fascia stuff. And to do it live was nearly £2,000, but to do it online is a lot cheaper, And you're saving, as you said, the flight, you're saving the hotel accommodation. So I think, you know, there are certain things, it's all right, it's not quite the same, but you're still getting to experience it, do it, learn from it, but not have to sort of make that initial outlay that's
right.
So sort of crippling, really. So anyway, back to the teaching as well. So one-to-one or group exercise?
Groups. I cannot do one-to-one. I mean, look at me. Look at my personality. Like, I scare the bejesus out of people if it's one-to-one. I often use this way of describing myself. So, you know, you're British, you know what Vegemite is.
Yeah.
All right, you know what Vegemite is. So Vegemite, it's a spread. It's very, very salty. That's me. It's sort of brown in colour. I'm sort of brown. And it's got an extraordinary shelf life. That's me. But you just want a little bit of me spread out thinly. And that's me. I think that me doing one-on-one would be like eating Vegemite with a tablespoon, and there's no way you want to do that. You just want to get a bit of me and spread me out, and then it's a nice flavour. Like, anything more than that is scary. So I cannot do one-to-one. I just scare people.
Yeah.
Too much energy.
Yeah. You definitely have a lot of energy. Definitely. I'd just like a little bit of your energy, like the Vegemite. So what has been your biggest challenge then in your career?
This will be an interesting response. And this has come about from obviously a lot of self-work. I have been my biggest issue. I have been my own biggest challenge. I think, Lynda, one of the things that I've had lots of trouble with is what goes on inside my own head, the self-talk, the self-belief systems, and whether it comes from come from a family that has a lot of autism. I tend to have a lot of structure, which I can make quite confining. Like, it has to be done like this, and it's got to be done like that. I don't have ADD, and I don't have compulsive behaviours, but you know, like clinically. But I think that there are certain things that I sort of like, these rules I have, that I've got to make sure that I fulfill these rules, and that can be very, very confining. And when I finally break my own rules, I'm like, oh my God, I could have always done this. So I think it's it's worked for me. There's a lot of that structure, self-discipline, and ritualistic behaviors has worked for me, but it also has been a burden as well. So my biggest challenge in my career has been me.
Interesting. It's very honest as well.
That's years of counselling. I can get to a point where I can actually admit that in public and actually acknowledge it and own it. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very good. Okay, so let's go back into the pool, to the aqua world and everything. And how do you think, because we've talked about you, how you've changed and everything, how do you think the industry's changed? What sort of things have you observed that the industry as a whole has changed since you, because we started at similar times in this industry, and I know, especially over here in the UK, how things have developed and evolved and changed, and what's sort of gone back and what's gone forwards and things. So how, in your perspective, has the industry changed?
I think the training is more professional now. I think that we consider more things than what we did before. So, when we first started in the industry, it was more about just getting some people moving in the pool. We've been able to stretch as far as like high intensity exercise is okay in the water. We've also been able to understand the properties of water better, because I think we used to do a lot more land stuff in the pool, whereas now we're becoming a lot more aware of the properties of water. And just in general, most instructors have a better understanding of that, which then goes back to better quality training. I think we've also got a ton more research about the benefits of exercising in the water, which didn't used to exist before. And I think also that, like we never used to have choreography in the pool. It was just a list of exercises and we delivered those exercises. We think about people having a positive experience, like exercise experience in the pool, rather than we're just training people in the water. So I think that we've just become more professional. We've become more appreciative of the benefits of water and how to be able to get people to enjoy their exercise experience in the water.
Yeah. I mean, I always sort of think that when I started out, it wasn't a career really. I was one of the few that actually made it a career. I mean, I did have a previous life. I was a chef originally, so I changed. I was trained as a French cuisine chef, and then when I had the girls, I thought I wanted them to learn to swim, and that's how my journey started. But very quickly, it did become my career. In fact, I always thought I was going to go back to being a chef right up until I did my master's, and then I thought I'm higher qualified in fitness than I ever was as a chef. So that was it. It was always my sort of like career in between. But when I started, it was very much the sort of the Jane Fonda days. You had Jane Fonda, you had the Lycra leggings, and it wasn't seen and taken very seriously, that it was a job that you did sort of after your real job. So you'd sort of finish work at 6 o'clock and then you go and teach aerobics for a couple of hours or something.
Yeah.
But as you say, now it is a profession that people are far more highly qualified. You've got degrees in fitness, you've got, all these different kinds of sports degrees that people are getting nowadays, has turned it into a much more respected profession than it sort of was in the early days. So, which is great. It's only going to be good for the industry, really. But I still think it's got a bit of a way to go as well. I don't know if you agree on that.
I agree. I still think, when I look at it from an instructor's point of view, the people who come to my workshops are the people who actually want to learn and want to be better instructors. But that's just such a small percentage of all the aqua instructors out there. And, you know, I still hear from my members about other aqua classes that they go to, and I don't comment. It's none of my business to comment. But, you know, I hear about the instructors who just literally roll up and, you know, slap on some music and do some exercise for 45 minutes, a bit like the way I started. And I'd like it, that sort of makes me a little sad that we haven't all moved. Like it, you know, there are still instructors still teaching the way I taught 30 years ago. And you're thinking, okay, we've still got a way to go. And, you know, like I hear horror stories about, you know, aqua classes with exactly the same moves and exactly the same music for years on end. And you're just like, really? Like, how is that beneficial for anyone? How does an instructor do that? Like, how do you show up and do exactly the same thing week in, week out? But of course, there's people who are doing that. And I think that that's a disservice to their clients, that they're not, you know, exploring other options and opportunities. But, you know, like you said, we've still got a ways to go, and that's okay. That's okay.
That's fine. We'll blaze the roots. We'll kicking and screaming will make them make them listen. So it's going to be a very interesting time as well. Very interesting when we reopen after this lockdown, I think, to see how we have to implement this social distancing, and that's in itself is going to bring very different ways of teaching as well, I think. So there's a big learning curve for all of us just around the corner. Definitely. Okay, so I can't think of too much else that I want to delve into in your life, as we could be here for hours. But I have one question that I do like to ask, and that is, when you retire eventually, what would be the thing that you'd like to be remembered for? I think it's a great question.
It's a really good question. I think 3 things popped into my head. Can I say all 3 or just the one?
Absolutely. No, you can say all 3.
I think my passion.
You've clearly got that.
Level of commitment and professionalism. And my ability to adapt and evolve.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah, so that would be the 3 things. You know, it's interesting. I actually did a recent Survey Monkey as part of a social media course I'm doing, and I had to basically ask people questions about why they would like to do classes with me, etc. And the 2 big things that just kept coming out all the time was variety, and this is the reasons why they would do that, why they do my classes: variety, and also you know, my level of professionalism about understanding the body and how the body mechanics work. So and I do appreciate that the population group that I seem to attract are women aged between 35 and 55. So, you know, they obviously don't have bodies that got bodies that just don't want to do what they did before, but still want to feel good when they exercise. So, you know,
I know that my body doesn't do what it did before. I'm definitely in that stage. I tell you, what causes a nightmare. It is just, I hate it.
Well, I know I'm somewhere in there. It's sort of happening right now. I'm not getting hot flushes yet, or, you know, I don't have vaginal dryness yet or anything like that. But I know that I'm obviously in that. I'm right there in that age group for menopause. So I'm sort of like a little bit like, oh, what's going to happen next? I'm expecting.
one of the interesting things that I find that you know, right through my 30s and even through my 40s, I said, well, you know, I'm a fitness instructor. I teach regularly, you know, even now I'm sort of teaching 5 classes a week, which is a fraction of what I was doing, but 5 classes should be enough. I said, you know, at least I'll never gain weight. And I have in abundance, and my boobs are massive. And that's, yeah, some people say it's a joy to get, but honestly, it's not. But I honestly thought as a fitness instructor, having taught classes since my very early 30s, that it just wouldn't happen to me. And it has. And it really has come as a shock.
See, I still remember when I was young, and I know I have the potential to be huge. So I always know like how big I can get. Um, so, uh, so as I've gotten older, for sure, it's been harder to keep the body fat around the midsection. You know, you're like, okay, that wasn't always there, but I know it's because of age. Like I know my metabolism is changing. I know my hormones are changing. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, but it's actually accepting it. She goes, Marietta, you need to accept it. I'm like, I'm struggling with that.
Ditto.
I'm struggling with
Ditto. I hate it. I hate it. And I just, you know, this 6 weeks lockdown has not been good. But
yeah.
Never mind. We have to accept how we are and then work on it. And just as long as I can stay fit. I mean, that's the thing. It's staying fit within whatever your body's doing to you. And really like yourself, I mean, I came from quite a large family as well. You know, I sort of always say I'm the slimmest one of the family when I sort of look back. So, you know, sort of thank heaven for small mercies, but it's not quite as small as I'd like it to be. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation to go down. That we can
this is a reference.
Another day. So as I don't know, I think, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Is there anything that exciting that you've got coming up? Where are you next presenting?
Well, this week was really busy. I actually presented for IAFC, which is the International Aqua Conference that was based in Florida. And I presented from my office, from right here, doing an aqua presentation, co-presenting with Mushi. That was interesting. I think trying to express yourself through a digital medium for a practical section was actually a very interesting experience, and I learned a lot from it. I was like, okay, now I know what I would change if I did this again. And then I had yesterday FitX, which is a New Zealand event. It's called FitX Lite, and originally I wasn't on the schedule because it was going to be a live event. When they decided to go virtual, I got invited. How's that?
Let's see, get all these new openings come through.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was all land-based, and I did 2 land-based sessions. So my lounge room has turned into my green room. So, you know, there's green, you know, on all I've Velcroed it to the walls. Like, so I've decided I might go and buy more material tomorrow just so that I can have a different backdrop occasionally. You know, because the virtual, like, it's just all those little bits and pieces. So that was an interesting experience. So I sort of want to go a little bit more into doing that. I don't have any more present. Another one on the 7th of June, but that's a land-based one. It's functional training for group fitness. And then I've got some online stuff that's already there, but nothing for water yet. So what I hope to do mid-June, that will be a virtual class on mid-June. So if people want to know more information about that, it's best if they subscribe on my website to receive the newsletter, and then they'll be added on and they'll be told about everything that's happening.
Excellent. That's brilliant. I've my next presentation is for A.R.E.A in June, which again is the Aquatic Therapy Rehab Institute. So I'm sort of team teaching on hypermobility on that one. So I might sort of like, when we're off air, actually ask you a few tips on team teaching virtually. So it's a steep learning curve for all of us, I think, that are sort of facing our clients and everything, to suddenly try and change, and especially in a medium like water, to try and change that now into sort of a virtual way of teaching. And yeah, that's going to be a whole new bag.
But perhaps one that actually allows you to reach more people, you know,
Yes,
than the people who can normally come to the event. So there's pros and cons here. And
absolutely.
I think that your message is often more powerful if you can get to more people than if you can just get to the select few who chose to come to your session at that particular event, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all who
Yeah.
is able to access it and hear it. So yeah, there's some opportunities here, that's for sure.
There is. So, okay, I think this is a good place to end, talking about where we're all going. So I'd like to say thank you very much, Marietta, for spending your afternoon with me, isn't it?
It is my afternoon. And thank you for asking me, Lynda. I was so pumped when you asked me. I was like, wow, getting interviewed by Lynda.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to speak to you, and your energy is so infectious.
Thank you.
So, anyway, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're doing for the rest of today, and hopefully we will catch up again relatively soonish. Well, the distance does limit, but we'll meet again. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. Take care, Marietta.
Bye.